The preseason has ended and roster decisions need to be made. We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube, where I am live from Bank of America Stadium following the Carolina Panthers preseason finale against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can also check out any of the episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And if you ever miss a live edition of a show here on YouTube, where I'm live after every single Panthers game, I'll be here in the press box after every home game, and on the road I'll be at home in my home studio. You can always check out those shows later on YouTube, or of course in your podcast feeds. Be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, because on Wednesday, September 3rd, heading into the week 1 matchup down in Jacksonville, it's back, the weekly Wednesday mailbag. All you got to do is at me or DM me over on Twitter or Blue Sky at Julian Council to get your questions into me right now. Honestly, go ahead and ask me questions about whatever you have on your mind about the Panthers as the preseason has ended. And yeah, they went 0-3 in the preseason. Not really important. What's important is all the work they got done during training camp, in particular, the two joint practices, one against Cleveland here in Charlotte, last week in Houston, and then what we saw from the starters, albeit brief appearances against both the Browns and Texans, and then what we saw tonight against the Steelers, where they did actually play a few of their starters, at least defensively and offensively, for a couple possessions, but getting to see what some of the back end of the roster guys fighting for a job had to show tonight. So let's break it down like we've done the first couple of shows: offensive takeaways, defensive takeaways, and then special teams takeaways to end it all. Let's start off with the offense. The first thing that stood out to me when I arrived at the stadium tonight was that Brycen Tremayne was not active for this game. And when you look at the list of players for Carolina who were inactive, it's like Bryce Young, it's Chuba Hubbard, it's Rico Dowdle, it's Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Tetairoa McMillan, guys that make sense defensively. Derek Brown, J.C. Horn. The starters weren't playing tonight. We knew that. Well, we didn't expect for Brycen Tremayne not to be out there on the field. And when you think back to last week in Houston, when Adam and Xavier and Tetairoa were out there first, the next guy to step on the field at the wide receiver position was Brycen Tremayne. Yes, Jalen Coker was sick, was not available, but he went out there before David Moore. He went out there before Jimmy Horn Jr. We'll talk more about him momentarily. He went out there before Hunter Renfrow. So when you saw that, and then when I got here tonight and saw that he wasn't active, I was asking myself, and literally everyone in the press box, we're talking, is Brycen Tremayne safely on the roster? Has it gone to that this quickly to where coming into camp, no one expected him to make the team? Then he was making plays against Cleveland in joint practice. He continued to make plays in the preseason, was out there last week, and then wasn't out there tonight. Now, we did, of course, ask Dave Canales, Panthers head coach, after the game what the situation was there. And he said it was just general body soreness for why Brycen Tremayne did not play tonight. Would they be concerned about general body soreness for a player they weren't planning on keeping on the roster for the long haul this season? Another guy who didn't play tonight because of general body soreness, Tetairoa McMillan, who went 8th overall. Dave talked about it. He was not out there on Monday or on Tuesday practicing. They were shutting him down because they know he's going to be here this season. There's no reason for him to go out, practice more, and then play in this game against Pittsburgh tonight. So if that's the case with Tetairoa McMillan, is that also the case with Brycen Tremayne? It's completely different. You use 8th overall pick on one guy, and then, of course, this is somebody who obviously you did not spend that kind of capital on. And entering into camp, at least I didn't believe, and I'm sure you didn't believe, really anybody outside of Brycen Tremayne's family, maybe a couple people in the building, believe that he was going to be potentially in this spot. So general body soreness to me kind of sounds like he may be safe. And we talked about this on the show I think yesterday, the days just blend together at this point in time when discussing Minnesota and their need for a veteran wide receiver. Obviously, Adam Thielen would make sense. And from talking to some people, there is real interest from the Viking side of things. And it's dependent upon what they offer to where that deal may be made. Maybe it gets made this weekend because roster's about to be cut down come Tuesday. So we'll see how that plays out. And if that happens, well, that certainly opens up the door for a guy like Brycen Tremayne to be safely on the roster, to be on this team, and he can impact on special teams, which if you're gonna not be a part of the top three, which right now is Thielen, McMillan, Leggett, you damn well be able to be somebody who can go out there and help out on kick coverage and punt coverage and all of that, play special teams. And we've seen Jalen Coker, who was playing into the third quarter tonight, mind you, he was out there on the punt coverage team playing special teams because he knows that to impact this team this season outside of whatever reps he gets offensively, it's going to have to happen on special teams. Like you can't be the fourth or fifth or sixth guy and not help out in those scenarios, which is why it's going to be so difficult for them to make a decision as far as who to keep and how many to keep because of those roles that these guys have been able to play. Because everyone pretty much behind the top three can play special teams, including Brycen Tremayne. So we'll find out on Tuesday, maybe earlier, if he's going to make the team. But right now, kind of feels like that's going to be the case. So if that's the case, that's four. Obviously, Coker's the fifth one. He's good. Now it comes down to, are they keeping six or are they keeping seven? And if they're keeping six, we're looking at Hunter Renfrow, David Moore, and Jimmy Horn Jr. Now, I spoke to Hunter Renfrow after the game in the locker room and was asking him how he felt. Says he feels good from the hamstring. That's not a problem. And I also asked, like, this is the first time you've been in this scenario in your entire career where, am I going to make the team? And he actually said, yeah, I haven't really thought about that at all. Like, he seemed pretty unbothered by the potential that he's not on the team. And when you just think about the fact that they use a 6th-round pick on Jimmy Horn Jr., and he has potential. And then, like, David Moore and Dave Canales, like, really tight going back to their time in Seattle. Remember a couple weeks ago I talked about, and I showed you the video from Dave Canales from his press conference where he talked about Jimmy Horn Jr. and another staff member here in Carolina. Like, they're always together. That staff member is trying to just guide Jimmy into his rookie season. And Dave said he did that with David Moore his first 2 years in the league for David Moore. So those guys are tight. So I wonder, even if it would be possible to where, all right, no other team's going to pick up David Moore. He's not subject to waivers. You can sign him after week one and say, hey, sorry about that. We just need to do this because it's the best thing for our roster. Like, you can do all of that. But is that what Dave wants to do? Or Hunter Renfrow, who coming off of that hamstring injury, and sorry, there's noise behind because the window's open. I don't want to close it. Don't want to break anything in the studio. But like, if that's the case to where he's so tight with David Moore, they drafted Jimmy Horn, like, is then Hunter Renfrow, who was really the shining star the first 2 weeks of camp before the hamstring, is he the odd man out here in Carolina? Instead, he's making less money than David Moore. I believe he would be subject to waivers to where he then may not be here in Carolina at all. Do they want to risk that? I don't know, man. But like the Tremayne situation, him not playing and it only being general body soreness really kind of muddies things up. And you could argue, okay, maybe they're just trying to stash him. I don't know if that's the case. He's played 2 preseason games, looked good, especially last Saturday. Everyone and their brother in the Charlotte media, the Panthers media, has been gassing this dude up and letting everybody know that, yeah, maybe this guy's actually pretty good. So I don't think it's necessarily one of those situations where they're just trying to stash him away so he doesn't get taken by another team off of waivers. Like, we'll find out. Another guy to think about is Jimmy Horn Jr. I was in a press box talking to some people and asking them, have you seen Jimmy Horn Jr. at all? Because when you look at the receivers who started tonight, it was Jalen Coker, it was Hunter Renfrow, and it was David Moore. Those guys you would look at as being 4, 5, and 6 on the depth chart at wide receiver at this moment in time. So they were playing. And then as the half wore on there in the first half, kept trying to find Jimmy Horn Jr., and I only saw him on the sideline with his helmet on, looking like he's ready to go in. But instead of him going in, I saw TJ Luther go into the game. I saw Kobe Hudson go in the game. I saw Jacoby George go in the game. Other guys who very clearly aren't going to be on the 53-man roster. Maybe they make the practice squad, which certainly that's beneficial, obviously, but they weren't guys that were going to get a chance to make the team, really. And I asked Dave Canales after the game just about Jimmy not playing in the first half, and I was like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't see him, and he said it was about getting to evaluate other guys. Maybe they feel confident in Jimmy, just like what maybe Brycen Tremayne didn't play. I know general body soreness, maybe it's more so they want to save him for the long haul this upcoming season. Maybe they are secure in what they think Jimmy Horn can do for them, to where they want to give Kobe Hudson and TJ Luther and Jacoby George another look with Jack Plummer, who knows the offense. And look, Jack didn't necessarily coat himself in glory. Neither did Bryce Perkins, who probably knows like 4, maybe 5 plays. So maybe that's the reasoning. Let's get these guys out there with a guy who can run the offense, knows the plays, put them in the position to be able to potentially make plays. And then we'll get to Jimmy later on, where he opened up the second half of the opening kickoff. I think he was out there on a punt return as well. It's just a little befuddling that a guy who clearly has speed, can help you special teams wise, isn't really the main kickoff or punt guy at this point in time, and wasn't out there on the field in the first half. Instead, it was a couple other guys. So maybe it's as simple as they just wanted to see some of the undrafted free agents get one last opportunity to put film out there, and then they can decide, do we want to have them on the practice squad later on? Maybe that's what it is. But to me, it makes me wonder. It really does make me wonder how those numbers are going to shake out. And I will tell you, I think Monday will be the episode where I will give you my final 53-man roster projection. Maybe I do that earlier than that, because they're going to take the weekend. They're going to start talking about it tomorrow morning on Friday, and they're going to take the weekend to figure it out as far as what they're going to do. But yeah, man, this is always been the most intriguing position group to me heading into training camp and out of the preseason now, just with the way things have kind of shaken out. I really don't know what they're going to end up doing. It may just be as simple as you keep 7, David Moore gets cut, and then he gets signed back after week 1. But then it's like you have 8, so you can't have 8. How does that shake out? So we'll find out. But man, that is something to look at. Also, some news as far as injury update wise, because there's nothing really to take away. Jack Plummer, he'll be here in a practice squad, I guess. Offensive line, nothing to say there. Running back Trevor Etienne did look good. I spoke to him after the game today, also in the locker room. Just talking more about him as a returner, more so than his running back skills we can add there. But that's figured out as far as that goes. Raheem Blackshear got an injury, not great for him. Didn't seem to be that serious, but not quite so sure what that's going to be. But Tommy Tremble, that was some of the news of the day heading into tonight. Off of the PUP list, physically unable to perform, which now puts him on track to be ready for week 1, which is always the hope. Damian Lewis, Dave Canales did say the Panthers starting left guard was on track, and he was confident that he would be playing on week 1. So good news there as far as Tommy Tremble and Damian Lewis and their ability to help the Panthers coming up week 1 in Jacksonville. Defensive takeaways. What did the defense look like? Some of the things on the defensive line. Has that been settled? Who's going to be the 5th guy? We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, me and Locked On NFL are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Live from Bank of America Stadium here, Locked On Panthers, breaking down the Carolina Panthers season or preseason finale as a fall 19-10. And the scoreboard's off. I think 19-10 to Pittsburgh. Doesn't really matter. 0-3 in the preseason, not focused on that. Yes, they're cleaning out the stadium. That's the noise you hear behind me. So hopefully, or I guess in front of me, hopefully it's not too loud. I would close it. I probably could, but also I don't want to mess anything up in here and never be allowed to come cover a game again. Looking at the defense, some takeaways from tonight. Not a lot. I think just at this point in time, we're looking at who's going to make the roster. And one thing I was really focused in on heading into tonight was who's going to be that fifth guy at defensive tackle there on the interior defensive line for Carolina. Derek Brown, we know what he's going to be able to do this year. A'Shawn Robinson, you know what his role is also. Bobby Brown III, they didn't pay him not to play. Turk Wharton, same thing. They didn't pay him not to play. So those four, that was always going to be secure. Just like after that, who was it going to be? Was it going to be Shai Tuttle? Was it going to be LeBron Ray? Was it going to be Jaden Crumley, the sixth rounder from Mississippi State a year ago? Or was it going to be Cam Jackson, who they just spent a fifth-round pick on this past April back in the draft? Like, that's what I was really focused on to see what those guys could do. Now, LeBron Ray did not play in the game. He was among the four guys, I think, that were not out there active today that were injured. So, like, that's Nick Scorton, that's DJ Johnson, that's Ray with the ankle, and then I guess Brycen Tremayne with the general soreness, which really a little bit different than having a collapsed lung. And, of course, whatever is going on with DJ Johnson, his hip, and then the high ankle sprain that LeBron Ray just has not bounced back from, which Dave Canales had said to us earlier this week that he had just not gotten back to that point to where he would be ready to go. So with that being the case, kind of feels like he's done in Carolina. If you're not healthy at this point in time, probably not going to happen for you. I think DJ Johnson, similar situation. If you're not healthy at this point in time, probably not going to happen for you. Thomas Incoom likely would be the guy to take his spot, but Ejiro Evero didn't want him. So it's still very possible, I'm not going to say likely, possible that DJ Johnson makes it. But defensive tackle at this point in time, LeBron Ray, I feel like you can mark him off. Shai Tuttle, they gave the pay cut for a reason. Would still have to guarantee his contract. Like, is that a guy you want? If he can clear waivers and sign back to the practice squad, then I think that's something that Carolina would do. I just don't know at this point in time if you want to take him over some of the younger guys like Crumedy and like Jackson. And the fact that Cam Jackson was healthy after not being healthy, and I know he has not been really up there with the ones or even the twos a lot of the time this training camp and preseason, I think just the fact that he was fifth-round pick, that he can be a guy who can play nose tackle, be a run stopper, he's probably the favorite to win that job at this point in time, and this may all be settled. But it's still very possible that they take Shai or that they take Jaden. I don't think LeBron is in a good spot at this point in time, but we'll find out. It's, of course, any of these guys could then be signed back to the practice squad. You have to look at it as more just than the 53-man roster. It's also the 16 guys plus the other international pathway player that can be a part of the practice squad. So it's really a roster of 69, 70 guys who can be out there for you, and then you can only have 48 dress out on Sunday. So interior defensive line, think that's settled. Outside linebacker, again, think Incoom likely going to be ahead of DJ Johnson at this point in time. Clyde Sherrills is out there, talked to him in the locker room, feeling good after the groin, and really feeling good about where this group is at, and gave us an update. Josie Jewell, apparently he's doing fine, so good to hear about that. The secondary, Lathan Ransom, really nice interception. We got to talk to him about that. A guy who made a nice play. He's made some good plays recently, too, in camp. I know he had a couple interceptions a couple weeks ago. I think especially the rainy day where he went out and really played well when that happened. So trying to see how that going to get played out as far as the starting safety role. Nick Scott did not play, so it seems like Nick Scott's going to be the starter there. But Lathan Ransom, Damani Richardson, both of those guys should be fine. And then I think corner, there's a little bit of concern. I brought this up last week. Shamar Bartholomew again gave up a touchdown. That's 3 preseason games, 3 touchdowns that he's given up. And that makes me think that, okay, Corey Thornton, undrafted free agent, a little bit older of a prospect at 24. I like what I've seen from him. I don't think he can be your third outside corner because you already have JC, you already have Mike Jack. You're hoping that those guys stay healthy. but you need somebody else back there. If something happens, one of them, of course, knock on wood, God forbid that happens, that can step up into that role. And I don't know if you want it to be Corey Thornton, as impressive as he's been, and as much as he's earned the opportunity. So I think that not necessarily a trade or anything. Like if you're going to trade Adam, maybe you can get something back from Minnesota. That would be great. But I think on the waiver wire, they're going to have a pretty high claim. You got to be looking at a veteran corner who's available. Maybe there's somebody else out on the street. That could make sense. They're not coming in to start. They're coming in to be that fourth guy really at corner, because you have Shaw Smith-Wade at the slot, but you need that third outside guy, and probably don't want to rely on someone like Corey Thornton, who I do think can be a player for them, but I think they also they don't really have anything behind him at this point in time that I think you feel good about. Caleb Evans also gave up some things. So Bartholomew Evans, two guys who, I talked about all off season, like apparently the staff, they like them. They want to see what they have of these guys, and they've seen what they have in them, and we've seen what they have in them. And I think that they certainly should be interested in trying to bring somebody else into Carolina to help out behind JC and behind Mike Jack this upcoming season. So those are my takeaways defensively as we close out the preseason here in Carolina. Special teams. Kicker, has it been settled? According to Dave Canales, it has not. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges, gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? With so much information online about mental health and wellness, it can be overwhelming to figure out what's true and what will actually help. That's where talking to a licensed therapist through BetterHelp can make all the difference. You get real, personalized guidance instead of just guessing based on something you saw on social media. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOn. Live from Bank of America Stadium, following the Carolina Panthers preseason finale against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Taking a look at special teams as we head into roster cutdown, 4 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday here in Charlotte. Panthers will start deliberating on Friday morning, try to figure out what they're going to do there with their roster numbers. Plenty of questions about receiver, talked about earlier. Plenty of questions, too, about what they're going to do defensively. They're going to add there, especially in the secondary at that corner position, in particular the outside corner position behind J.C. Horn and Mike Jackson, but also like special teams. What's going to happen at kicker? The controversy, it will be coming to an end soon. Tracy Smith, the special teams coordinator here in Carolina, said last week that he believes they have 2 NFL kickers here in Carolina. One being Ryan Fitzgerald, the rookie from Florida State. The other being Matthew Wright, the journeyman who is here and did not get an opportunity to kick tonight, which I found to be quite interesting. And both Mike Kay of The Observer and Joe Person of The Athletic asked Dave Canales multiple times about his decision to not kick a field goal. Now, it was only going to be like a 33, 34 yard or so. So really like an extra point, but why not give Matthew Wright an opportunity to kick? Yes, Matthew Wright's been here all off season. They've seen him since the spring. Do you really need to see him kick in another game? Probably not, but he only got a one chance kick at all this preseason. So why not give him a chance and not wrap up the game right away? But they decided we've seen enough. Let's move on. Ryan Fitzgerald got to kick a 43-yarder tonight. Made a 52-yarder last week in Houston. Just based off of that and the opportunities he's gotten, I guess you could say he's the guy, but it's more nuanced than that. It's, of course, the kickoff game and the way that they want to utilize that, how he fits into the locker room, and J.J. Jansen has brought that up as well. So your guess is good as mine, I guess, at this point in time. I really don't know who's going to win it. And it is also fair to wonder, is the starting kicker in Carolina even on this roster? And it could be possible the guy who's in the building tonight, because you look at who was kicking for Pittsburgh. Ben Sauls was at Pitt last year, one of the best kickers in college football, went 4 for 4 tonight. The Steelers have Chris Boswell. They've given that guy I think he might even got extended this offseason. I don't really remember. I don't care with Pittsburgh like that, but they have one of the best kickers already in the NFL in Chris Boswell. So they're clearly not going to keep a second kicker, because that would be ludicrous. Maybe if he becomes available, Carolina puts in a claim and they take him, because they could say, all right, Matthew, you made the team. And then the very next day, as we've seen last year, where 6 guys made it, and then we're told the next day, actually, sorry, no, you're not on the team anymore. We just picked up somebody who just got cut yesterday and they're now on the team. Like that could very well happen for a guy like Sauls who gets picked up off the waiver wire, and maybe Carolina wants to get him. Maybe they're impressed by what they saw. And that's the thing about the preseason. You're able to evaluate everyone else's roster. They're able to evaluate your roster as well. Like this is for all these guys, like they're trying to make this team, but also trying to make every other team in the league. And that's what Ben Sauls is doing today for Pittsburgh, trying to make another team. And quite possibly he's going to make this team. I don't know. I mean, Fitzgerald, because he's younger, has a big leg, like that would be the guy I would kind of lean towards, like the Matthew Wright thing. I mean, we had a great story. I mean, the guy has fought his ass off to be in position to be the kicker of an NFL team full time. Would love it for him as well. So we'll see how that plays out. But I would say do not be surprised if they decide that there's somebody else outside of the building who they want to come in and be their kicker. Other special teams kind of things. Again, Coker's out there. Great for him. He's secure on the roster. No really concern, but good to see that he's been able to take those steps and really add a special teams. Returner. Raheem Blackshear feels like it's over for him, right? I thought last week when you saw that Trevor Etienne or Etienne was the kick returner and punt returner. Yeah, Raheem, it's over because he had a little snafu there against Cleveland. Doesn't look like it's going to happen for him. He also went out with a ankle injury, and I hate that. Just not because that's going to be a reason for Carolina to then move on because of the injury, but it's also going to be a reason for teams not to pick him up. I do think he'll get another opportunity in the league. I don't know how serious it is. We didn't ask about it. I'm just hopeful for a guy like at this point of the calendar where you can still get a job elsewhere, that's not something that prohibits him from doing that somewhere else. But he will not be here in Carolina. They have 3 backs. It's going to be Chuba Hubbard, Rico Dowdle, Trevor Etienne. Pretty straightforward there. Trevor appears to be the top returner. I would guess that Rico Dowdle's out there with him on kickoff return once they are out there week 1 against Jacksonville. We'll see with Jimmy Horn. Like, again, if he's going to make the team, it's going to be based off of that. And the fact that they spent a 6th-round pick, which isn't that much capital anyways, but also the potential. And they had some packages for him. I think it's weird. I in a way, maybe he's been overly hyped up and that should never happen. But maybe it's like, maybe he should have been given more of an opportunity. I don't know, man. But what I've seen is that Trevor Etienne is the main returner here in Carolina, punt return and kick return. I was asking him about punt return. He's like, said he only returned 2 punts in college. And he didn't return kicks last year in Georgia because they had somebody else. And also because he was banged up. But mainly because that's somebody else. So he's happy back kick returning. So it's been different for him kind of getting used to the punt return situation. Hasn't really struggled at all in the live game, which is good to see. But yeah, Raheem Blackshear seems like he's done. David Moore, he was back there actually with Trevor, which is notable when trying to figure out the back of the roster there at wide receiver as far as who's going to make it. Other guys, like just looking at core special teamers, Thomas Incoom, I think he's ahead of DJ Johnson at this point in time. Claude Sherless, John Radigan, those guys are good at linebacker. Quite possibly they keep 6 linebackers. I was talking to somebody, Bam Martin Scott, the UDFA from South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's defense was great last year, and I feel like every single one of those guys should be on an NFL roster this season, whether it's practice squad, 53-man roster. I don't care. Those dudes were studs. He was a part of that. And it sounds like he could have a really good chance. So those are kind of just trying to think off the top of my head. I think those are kind of the core special teams guys, at least defensively. And then, of course, some of the receivers, maybe James Mitchell at tight end. They could do that. Just depends on how many they're going to keep other spots. If you keep 7 receivers, probably not as easy to keep 7 tight ends, or 4 tight ends, rather, now that Tommy Tremble's back. So we'll see how that all plays out here in Carolina over the next couple of days as they have roster cut down on Tuesday, again, 4 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll know who the initial 53 is. And then come the next day, it could change. And lovely doing live because I have people coming in and out here trying to clean up. So, yeah, it's 11:21. I'm tired, ready to go home. Been a long day, but always happy to be talking to you all. Always happy to get blessed, of course, get the opportunity to come cover my hometown team. Really crazy to think that I used to sit there in a corner of that end zone, and now I'm sitting up here getting the opportunity to talk about this team on a daily basis. Some days better than others, of course, because they certainly have left me wanting a lot of time since I've been doing this, but appreciate all of y'all, and appreciate, of course, the opportunity to come to talk to you about this team. And hopefully it's going to be a good season. We'll see. I think there's potential. I'll give you some takeaways about overall preseason, training camp, whatever there is to take away heading into the year. Maybe that will be part of Monday as well. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all here on this episode of Locked On Panthers. Again, subscribe or follow the show free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council. The weekly Wednesday mailbag is back starting week 1, September 3rd. And get your questions in by adding me or DMing me over on Twitter or adding me over on Blue Sky at Julian Council. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole as always. Keep pounding, and I'll talk to y'all on Monday, where I'll give you some roster projection. We'll talk about some of the things we can take away overall from the preseason here on Locked On Panthers.